So here's where I take some time to address something that I've heard other people mention but not really get into. With the changes that our planet is going through, we should keep in mind that some things that we have known all our lives to be one way, some of those things may completely change. One of the things that will change and has been changing is the animal kingdom. Now, when I say changes, what I'm talking about is mass animal die-offs and the emergence or discovery of new species, the changes in behavior, not only in the wild animals but in domestic animals as well, and migration. This, I believe, is important because as the earth undergoes these changes, we should be aware of what is happening with the biological earth, both animals and plants. Finally, we must be aware of and recognize the changes we may go through. The seasons are changing, summer is upon us, and if you pay close attention, I believe you may see the emergence of some new and strange creatures, animals you have never heard of. For a long time, we have lived in a world of normalcy. Come to find that the world we live in is really made of stranger things. Okay, so the very first thing I want to do is I want to talk about magnetism because this is a huge part of what I'm presenting. There's something called magnetoreception. This is theorized to be the sense that allows a variety of animal species to detect a magnetic field for navigation and orientation. Now, the science behind magnetoreception is quite complex, as it involves quantum physics and chemistry. Basically, what you need to know is light enters the eye. The light then triggers or activates these cryptochrome molecules, which scientists believe is responsible for giving animals like migratory birds the ability to see magnetic fields. But understand, folks, that this science is not fully understood. So, we see this magnetic sensitivity in birds, bees, fish, sea mammals, even cattle. We see it in a variety of species. It is believed that humans as well have magnetoreception, as some of the same factors exist in our biology. But we are not attracted to or drawn to any particular magnetic field. And that may be because it is silenced by our other senses and free will, perhaps. Even though we don't have a complete understanding of magnetoreception, we can still rely upon the concept of cause and effect. So we know if the orientation and navigation of creatures on this planet is reliant upon the magnetism of the planet, then we should expect magnetic anomalies to affect that orientation and navigation. Anomalies meaning disturbances in the magnetic field. Now, many of these disturbances are the result of uneven mineral composition of the Earth's crust. Magma is a heavy variable in these magnetic anomalies as well, and the sun. The sun has its own magnetosphere that has a very close relationship with our magnetosphere. Let's keep this in mind because what affects the magnetosphere of the sun affects ours. This includes changes in gravity and radiation. So here's the thing. If you have an increase in cases where flocks, herds, schools of animals are migrating in peculiar patterns, you could estimate that this is probably due to changes in the Earth's magnetic field, which could be related to volcanism, gravitational bodies in space, radiation. We know that magnetism does affect the human brain. It affects the brains of animals, but at least these things that are occurring with animals haven't really affected humans, right? Wrong. There are degrees to this. Let me explain. All around us, aside from the natural magnetic fields of the Earth, we have man-made magnetic fields. Basically anything that has an electrical charge running through it. power lines, electronics, you name it. If you measure the strength of any magnetic field, you would do so in Tesla. zero point 0.1 microtesla is normal exposure for humans, not to mention we are used to the magnetic field of the Earth, which has fluctuations that we are also used to. No big deal. It is a big deal if the magnetic fields around us get significantly stronger. We have electromagnetic fields and we have static magnetic fields like the one the Earth produces. It is the strength of the electromagnetic fields which produces significant effects on our bodies at certain levels. And some scientists understand that there is a threshold. According to Alexandre Lagros, a medical biophysicist at the Lawson Health Research Institute and Western University in London, Ontario, and a UTIC scientist, the smallest magnetic field that has reliably been shown to trigger a response in humans is around 10,000 to 20,000 microtesla. But crucially, to produce the effect, the field cannot be static like Earth's magnetic field. Rather, it must change directions over time. When these strong, direction-shifting magnetic fields get directed at a human, small electrical currents begin to pulse through the body. Above that threshold, the currents can stimulate supersensitive cells in the retina, known as graded potential neurons, giving the illusion of a white light flickering even when the affected person is in darkness. These visual manifestations are known as magnetophosphines. Now, most people in their lifetime will probably never be around a magnet that is stronger than an MRI magnet, which powers up at around 3 Tesla with a static magnetic field. The only other stronger magnets that anyone would be exposed to are the ones built in laboratories like CERN or MagLab. Otherwise, you need something in outer space that is very large and very close, or we would have to be close to a magnetar. And according to Paul Sutter, an astrophysicist at Ohio State University and chief scientist at the Kossi Center in Columbus, Ohio, the effects of such a strong magnetic field would have some quite interesting effects on our bodies. At the atomic level, the strong magnetic field would move all of the positive charges in your body in one direction and the negative charges the other way. He explains spherical atoms would stretch out into ellipses and soon they would start to resemble thin pencils. That drastic change in shape would interfere with basic chemistry, causing the normal forces and interactions between atoms and molecules in the body to break down. The first thing you would notice is your entire nervous system, which is based on electrical charges moving throughout your body, is going to stop working, says Sutter. And then you basically dissolve. So now that we have warmed up with the ideas of magnetism and its effects on biological organisms, including plants, because magnetism does affect how plants grow, let's talk about radiation. When you consider the increase in radiation levels around the planet, you may stop to ask yourself how this is going to not only affect us, but our animals as well, because usually animals tend to be more sensitive to these changes. When it comes to animals, your first indication that something is not right is how stressed the animal is behaving. It will seem like a sort of anxiety. Animals kept in enclosures, tanks, cages, will seem like they want to escape. On the other side of that coin, we have animals that become more aggressive and will start to mess with humans a lot more often than we would expect, especially young children. There was a case in Britain where a fox, which is a very timid animal, a scavenger, no more harmful than a raccoon, this thing went into a family's home while they were sitting downstairs watching TV and into the bedroom where there were 2 9-month-old twin girls. After hearing the commotion coming from the bedroom, the parents found the fox viciously attacking one of the girls. Raccoons, possums, yeah, I expect them to be crazy. But a fox? There are at least 2 cases last year of monkey kidnappers in India. One in April with a 16-day-old baby found in a well after the monkey dumped him there. And then again in November when a monkey snatched a 12-day-old baby right out of the mother's hand. And one of the biggest issues with something like this is that, and this is the thing with monkeys, when a monkey does something and the other monkeys see them do it, it is monkey see, monkey do. That's a real thing. Now, how many of you have seen this story on the raccoon dog? Don't know what I'm talking about? Exactly. You will. They are more commonly known in places like Japan. They're a breed of dog, and they are moving in places like the UK. Now, this photo makes the thing look extra creepy, but I think what we should expect from this is that animals that we consider to be exotic, animals you and I may have never seen or heard of before, may start popping up in our backyards. Radiation, folks, it causes things to heat up. And when things heat up, or when they cool down, animals move, people move. What this radiation is doing, this radiation coming in from the sun and outer space along with gravitational and magnetic influences, it is putting pressure, or should I say, the atmosphere seems to be becoming more pressurized. And that pressure does relate to temperature. At the same time, particles are flowing into the poles, building pressure inside the Earth. So with all this stress on the Earth, again along with outside forces, what we could have here are holes in the magnetic fields of the Earth. Where these particles can get through, now you have an increase in radiation exposure. And radiation in some cases can make you lose your mind if it doesn't kill you first. And what people forget is that it could take years before a good dose of radiation gives you something like cancer, because it breaks your DNA. And I keep talking about this stuff because magnetic and gravitational forces, radiation, these things we cannot see, so they are harder to believe in. There's a great mini-series out now called Chernobyl. I highly recommend it because it shows how people react to something they have not yet experienced. And because they could not see the radiation, it was hard for them to all believe in its danger. It will give you some lessons on nuclear physics and how radiation works, as well as how people react and how governments react and operate when they deal with such catastrophic events. Believe it or not, this is something that could have killed off most of the world. Quite rapidly, I might add. So what I am getting at here is, you're not going to be able to wait for somebody to tell you what's going on. You're going to have to take measures for yourselves and your families. What is the radiation level where you are at right now? Do you know? For as long as you've been living there, have you ever known? What is the radiation level in sieverts where you would start to experience radiation sickness? At what level is it fatal? How much radiation is the average person exposed to each year? The meat that you eat, the vegetation, where does it come from? What are the levels of radioactive contamination in those products? Do you know? Do you have a Geiger counter to check your food? I mean, EMFs, you can download an app and check that with your cell phone. But when it comes to ionizing radiation, that's a $300 Geiger counter or better. So because of all these things, what we are going to see is animals, a lot of pests, a lot of creatures that just devastate certain areas when they invade. Snakes, coyote, raccoons, rodents, they're all going to be moving on up to the east side, to some deluxe apartment in the sky, because that's where they're headed. And the animals that eat those animals are going to follow. Keep your eyes open, folks, because you're going to see this happening with small mammals. You're going to continue to see this with birds and smaller fish, because they are extremely sensitive to these earth changes. There's a lot more I want to discuss, and I will. Until then, take a look into this. Take a look at what's happening in your area concerning animals. You may find something interesting.